Hi guys, and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today we're doing a tutorial for this GWGB1000 Mudmaster and the module 5713 that's inside. This is a triple sensor solar atomic Bluetooth enabled G-Shock. So pretty much has all the tech that Casio has. Because of that, this video is going to be very long and maybe even done in a couple of parts. But just like in all my other tutorial videos, in the description you'll find a table of contents with time codes. So if you want to learn about a specific function of the watch, you can just click those and it will jump to that part of the video. However, I would advise you to watch the whole video the first time just so you get acquainted with all the functions that this watch has. Now, you can use it without pairing it to your phone, and it's going to be basically just like the GWG1000 and GWG2000. However, I would advise you to pair it to your phone because it unlocks some additional features, including that saving location and navigating you back to your location using your phone. Second is the arrangement and disable of certain modes. So you can rearrange the modes in this watch to your liking, and you can even disable some that you know you will not be using. And third, you have altimeter calibration. Altimeters on these types of watches always calculate altitude based on the barometric pressure. So if the weather changes, the altimeter reading is going to be wrong. So between 2 days, you can have different altimeter readings. However, if you pair it to your phone and enable altimeter correction, the watch, whenever it connects to your phone to get time data, which is, I believe, 5 or 6 times a day, it's also going to record the altimeter data. So it's going to calibrate the altimeter based on your phone, which is a pretty cool feature, and I believe this is the first G-Shock to have that. Okay, so when you receive your watch, the easiest way to set it up is to simply pair it to your phone. To pair it to your phone, you're going to have to download the Casio Watches app, which is this one. Once you launch it, you're going to have to open a Casio ID, but you can log in with your Google or Facebook account, which is what I did. It's much easier. You don't have to open their own ID, and then you go to My Watches and you go register watch on this plus, and here you have to insert the module number, which in this case is 5713. If you don't know which one yours is, but it's always 5713 for this watch, it's that little number in the rectangle at the back. So 5713 5713. It's going to offer the watches having that module, which is the GWGB1000. Then you're going to click this red version because we have it. Then you can name your watch. If you have a few, you can added the purchase date, and you click register. Now at this point, the app is gonna ask you for a lot of permissions, you know, like location and everything. I enabled all of those, that's why it jumped right here, but then you just go to permissions, you allow everything that the app asks, and you can move on. Now here it tells you to press and hold the mode button while in the home screen, and that's pretty much it. This is also how you're going to connect it to your phone when you want to do some settings or anything. So just in the home screen, press and hold the mode button for a couple of seconds until you have pair or connect written on the screen. There. And now release. As you can see, the connect is flashing. Now the watch is going to connect to my phone, and it's going to pull in all the data necessary. So time, location, time zone, DST settings, everything, date, year, month, everything is going to be set up, and you're pretty much done. The watch is ready to be used, and from now on, it's going to automatically connect to your phone, like I said, 5 or 6 times a day to always be on time. Also, if you're having trouble connecting to your phone, you can do an all clear. So I'm not going to do it because we're going to have to pair it again, or maybe I'll show it and then I'm going to pair it off camera. But if for some reason your watch doesn't want to connect, now this is taking a longer because this is the first time I'm pairing it to the app, but if for some reason, there, it did it, it adjusted the time, it's going to tell you that the pairing is complete, and that's pretty much it. Now the app is going to ask you which kind of units you want to use. So as you can see, everything is much easier to set up on the app than on the watch, but I'll show you how to do it on the watch. Send settings to the watch, and this is the initial setup. You're done. Okay, if for some reason you're having trouble connecting to your phone, so let's disconnect now. Press any button to disconnect, and the watch doesn't want to do it, you just go back into the home screen, so you're disconnected. You pull out the crown, like so, and you press and hold this for 5 seconds until it writes clear all. So we're going to do it now, and then we're going to pair it back off camera. So press and hold, still hold, and you can clear all the data on the watch. There. When you've done this, you've basically reset the memory of the watch, and now you can pair it. Because sometimes these Bluetooth watches, when they're in the store, someone is looking at them, and for the fun of it, they pair it to their phone. Later, you buy that watch, it comes to your house, you try to pair it, and it doesn't want to because it's registered to another app. This clears that data inside the watch so you can register it to your app. So that's pretty much it. Once you pair it again, which is something I'm going to do right now off camera, we can move on. Okay, while it's pairing, this same procedure is something you're going to do if you change your phone. So if you buy a new phone, you're first going to go into the app, but first in the app you're going to delete pairing and delete watch info, and then you're going to do the procedure that I showed you on the watch. That way that phone is going to be clear, the watch is going to be clear, and then you can connect it to a new phone. Okay, if for some reason you have to do the airplane mode or whatever they're going to call it, where you disable the Bluetooth on this watch and prevent it to automatically connect to your phone, what you have to do is go into the receive screen by cycling through the modes with the mode button. And once you get to the RCV, you pull out the crown, and here you have auto RC on or off. This is also going to disable the automatic connection to the atomic towers. So if you want to, like I said, this is like basically an airplane mode. Let's go back to put it to on, and that's it. And over here you can also do time only reception. So this is the last time it received an atomic signal, but if you want to just connect it to your phone to get the time data, you go into the receive screen and you press the lower button. The watch is going to connect to your phone, just pick up the time and resume operation. So this should take slightly less than the first pairing we were doing. Also in this RC screen, there, it's done. Also in this RC screen, you can also initiate a manual atomic reception, so to connect to one of the radio towers and atomic clocks in the world, just by pressing and holding. So press and hold, and now we initiated the regular atomic reception. Let's stop it because it's not going to catch the signal here. This is something that you should do in the evening, but like I said, if you pair it to your phone, you probably will never have to use it. Anyways, that's it when it comes to this RC screen and the initial setup and connection of your watch. Now let's go back to the home screen. I'm going to show you how to set it up manually without the phone. So while you're in this home screen, you simply pull out the crown. Now, if you want to set up your time zone, you simply rotate the crown. It's going to change, as you can see, the time zones, and that's pretty much it. Very, very intuitive, just like many other G-Shocks. Now, pressing the mode button again is going to ask you for the DST or daylight savings time. So this is where you can switch between summertime and wintertime. Leave it at auto if you're paired to a phone or if you're catching the signal from the atomic towers. You can put it to off if your, let's say, time zone doesn't observe DST, but you're still connected to the atomic towers or your phone, so you want your time to be accurate. You can override it and keep it permanently off or permanently on. Let's leave it at auto. Pressing the mode button again, the watch is going to ask you whether you want it to beep when you operate the buttons, or if you can put a mute function where it doesn't make any sound as you operate the buttons. Let's put it back to ketone. Press the mode button again. This is the auto light. So if you put the watch level and tilt it to your face, it's going to light up only when it's in the dark because it's solar, so it knows when it's in the dark. You can disable it by again twisting the crown. Pressing the mode button again, the watch is going to ask you about the light. So if you leave it at 1, it's going to light up for 1.5 seconds when you tilt it to your face or when you press the light button. Or you can rotate it to 3. Now it's going to be on for 3 seconds. Let's move on. The last setting is the 12 or 24-hour display. So AM, PM indicator or 24-hour display. We use 24, so I'm going to put it like this. And the power save on or off, whether you want the watch to turn off the screen in the dark, in the evening when it knows you're not going to be using it. Press the mode button again. Here it also asks you for the units, meters or feet when it comes to altimeter. This is now the barometer data, whether you want hectopascals or millimeter Hg, whatever it's called. We'll put it to HPA. And again, the thermometer, centigrade or Fahrenheit. We're going to leave it at centigrade. Now, all these settings were done on the first screen in the app automatically, as you can see. So using the app is much easier. And it jumps back to the city. So as you can see, you didn't have the option to change the time or date. To do so, when you're in this adjusting screen, no matter where you are, pressing the upper button is going to jump to the time setting. But once it jumps to the time setting, you cannot go back to selecting your city. So here you adjust the minutes by turning the crown, and naturally you can do the speed scrolling. Pressing the mode, it asks you for the hours. Pressing it again, it asks for the year. Pressing it again, month. Again, you just scroll with your crown. Date, the same, and jumps back to the time. When you've set up everything, you just close the crown. Now, to go back to the selection of the city, you have to close the crown and then pull it out again. So when it shows the city, cycling with the mode button is going to go through that part of the settings, units and everything. But once you go with the adjust button to the time setting, you're stuck in the time setting until you close the crown and pull it out again. So just remember that. Anyways, that's it. So let's close the crown. And remember, when you're cycling through the modes, when you go back to the home screen, which you can do by pressing and holding the mode button, it's always going to show you the level of the battery by writing out a letter here, L, M, or H, and this arrow here is also going to show you the level of battery. So let's go back to the main time, and as you can see, M, and here it wrote M, and then this hand goes back to pointing at 12. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the home screen and initial setup. Now, in the home screen, the watch is going to display here the hours, the minutes, and day of the week. However, you can change that by pressing this adjust button when the crown is closed. So pressing it is going to toggle to display the barometer data, the full time with minutes, hours, minutes, and seconds, or that thing where it displays the hours and the day of the week, the hours and minutes. Also, the day of the week is not something that you set up because the watch calculates it automatically using the calendar data, so date, month, and year. Okay, so that's it when it comes to the home screen. Let's move on. The next function is the barometer. Now, the barometer is going to tell you the weather data. Here, it's going to show you the barometric graph data, but because we did the all reset, now it has no reading whatsoever. Now, in the barometer data, you can also turn on the weather alarm. So while in the barometer, press and hold the upper button or the adjust button. It's going to say info on, and it's going to be the weather alarm is going to be on for 24 hours, and you're going to have this little borrow written here. Once that borrow disappears after 24 hours, that means that the watch automatically disabled the weather alarm. Also, when in the weather alarm, the watch is going to take readings of the barometer data, I believe like every 5 minutes or something like that. And the barometer graph is going to show you the barometer data for the last 20 hours. However, you can change that by pulling out the crown, where not only can you calibrate the barometer if you know that it's reading wrong, but pressing the mode button is going to ask you about the interval. So you have the 2-minute interval or the 2-second interval. In the 2-second interval, let's see what it says. It's going to be like every 5 seconds, and the graph is going to be 20 minutes. The total graph is going to be 20 minutes. If you switch it to 2-minute interval, again, the watch is going to measure the pressure every 2 minutes, I believe, or 5 minutes. But the more important thing is that the graph is going to show you the last 20 hours, which is much more useful. Also, when the weather alarm is on, whenever it detects a sudden change in barometric pressure, the watch is going to warn you by beeping and drawing a certain graph line, telling you whether the weather is going to go better by going up or going to go bad by going down. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the barometer. The units were set up back there. Also, you have the temperature. Again, to get an accurate temperature reading, you should take the watch off your wrist. Otherwise, the wrist is going to heat it up. And the only thing that you can do here is pull the crown out and calibrate the thermometer. And that's pretty much it. Close the crown. The next mode is the memory. So this is going to be clear because we did an all clear, but here the watch is going to tell you manual records of the altimeter that you did. It's going to tell you the total ascent, descent, maximum elevation you've ever been to, minimum elevation you've ever been to, with date and time data. And you're going to cycle with these two buttons between the two. However, since this watch has been all cleared, it has nothing in memory. Once you enter the altimeter, it's going to start recording that. To clear the data here, you press and hold this button to clear a certain or one single info or data point. To clear everything, you just keep holding it until it says clear all. Like so. Now the memory is cleared, although, like I said, this one has been cleared because we did an all reset on the watch. And that's it when it comes to the recall screen. I believe the recall can store up to 30 data points or something like that. After that, the older ones get overwritten, just like on all other G-Shocks. Moving on. Next one is sunrise and sunset data, something that the GWG1000 and 2000 don't have. Very useful. I used to ride a bike, and when we would go off, we would calculate our distance and how much time we're going to be back home for. And since this changes throughout the year, I always liked watches with this because then we can calculate how far we can go with our bikes and back before the dark catches us. So here it shows you for the current date, and you can naturally go forward and backwards in time with these two buttons to tell you, let's say we're going to do it in like 5 or 6 days. You go to that date and it's going to tell you when the sun is going to set and when it's going to rise on that certain date. A pretty nifty feature. Moving on, we have a stopwatch. It's a 24-hour stopwatch. So you press the lower button to start it, press it again to stop it, press the upper to reset it. You can also start it and do a split time. So if you want to record this time of something passing, but you want the stopwatch to keep running in the background, you press the upper button, the screen is going to freeze so you can write down that data, and you unfreeze it by this, and as you can see, the stopwatch went all the way to 15. This also allows you to do like the first and second place. So if you have two runners, when the first one goes through the finish line, you press the upper button. When the second one goes through the finish line, you press the lower button. Now you have the time of the first runner, press it here. The upper button is going to show you the time of the second runner, and pressing it again resets the stopwatch. So pretty simple. Moving on, we have the countdown timer. Sadly, it's only a 60-minute countdown timer. You start it just like the stopwatch on the lower button. Once it reaches 0, it's going to beep. You can also stop it and reset it to the time set in memory. To adjust it to any time you want, which is between 1 minute and 60 minutes, you pull out the crown and you twist it. And that's pretty much it. So when you set it up to the time that you want, you simply close the crown. Sadly, it doesn't allow you to set up the seconds, which is a shame, and it's a shame it's only a 60-minute one. Close it in. Now the time stored in memory is 15 minutes. So if we press it now, it's going to start counting down. Stop it and reset it. Moving on, we have the alarm. So this watch has 5 alarms. To cycle through the alarms, you use these two buttons. So alarm 1, alarm 2, as you can see it says off and it's set up for midnight. Alarm 3, off, set up for midnight. You can go back with this button, alarm 2, 3, 4, 5, and you have the hourly chime, which is the beeping of every full hour. Now to turn any of these on or off, including this hourly chime, when you select one, so this is now the hourly chime, you press the upper button. Now the watch is going to beep every full hour. You get this little indicator here that the hourly chime is on. To turn any of the alarms, let's say alarm 2, again you go to the alarm 2 and press this. Now it's on, now it's off. Pretty simple. To adjust any of the alarms, so let's say we want to adjust alarm 3 to, I don't know, 2 a.m. or 2:05 a.m. You select alarm 3, you pull out the crown, and the watch is going to ask you the minutes. So let's say 3, 4, 5. And naturally, you can also speed scroll by twisting the crown fast. Press the mode button. It's going to ask you for the hours. And now this is 2:05 a.m. And as soon as you opened the crown and closed it, the alarm is automatically turned on. To turn it off again, press the upper button, and that's pretty much it. So that's it when it comes to the alarm function. Let's move on. Next one is the world time function. Now, although this watch has certain cities stored in memory, the one thing that I don't like about it is that you have to use the crown to change the city code, which means that you have to unscrew it, which is a bit of a problem on this one because it's a full screwing crown. I wish they used it with the buttons. And as you can see, it has the speed scrolling. So if you want to stop it, if you want to go to a time zone further away, you simply twist it a couple of times and it's going to start going and going until you stop it. So let's say you select a certain time zone. Where are we? Okay. LAX. And you close the crown, and now this is your home time, and this here is going to be Los Angeles time. So let's say you travel to Los Angeles. You don't want to view that time here on this small screen, and you also want to use the alarms that are based on the home time. You can do an easy time swap. So once you land in Los Angeles, in the world time function with the crown closed, you simply press and hold the adjust button and release. And as you can see, these two have now been swapped. So now we have the LA time displayed on the analog part and our home time on the digital part. Once we land back, we come back from LA to here. Again, to do the time swap, you simply press and hold, and it swaps it back. Now, if you use the app, you can do the same in the app, and also in the app you have like a total of 300 cities that you can send to this watch, because this one only stores, I believe, 48. So if you want a different city, you can select it in the app and send it to the watch, which is pretty nifty. Also on the watch, you can change the DST settings or the summertime and wintertime settings for each time zone individually. So you pull it out, we have LAX selected. Pressing the mode button is going to ask you for how you want the DST to be set up. If you leave it at auto, that means that the watch is going to pick up the time from the phone, or you can again override it by doing DST off or DST on, and you can do that for each time zone individually. To press the mode button again, go back to city and close the crown. And that's the only thing that you can do in the world time when it comes to the setup. Moving on, we come into the reception screen, which I explained at the beginning. So here you can do an automatic reception, manual reception of the phone time. Pressing and holding, it's going to activate the atomic reception, and you can turn on the automatic receive, or in other words, you can toggle the airplane mode on or off. And that's pretty much it. Pressing the mode button again jumps back to the main time. So that's it when it comes to these regular functions, including the barometer and thermometer. And now we're going to cover the altimeter and the compass, because the compass also has navigation. Okay, the next function is the altimeter. So in the home screen, you press the altimeter button, the watch starts measuring the altitude. And like I said, it doesn't measure the altitude, but calculates it based on the barometric pressure, which is why these altimeters are really not that accurate. You always have to reset them or recalibrate them when you're starting your hike. So you have to be at a known height, then enter that height into the altimeter, and then it's going to show the difference pretty accurately. To do so, the calibration, one way is, like I said, as long as you pair the watch to your phone, and on the phone you actually have the option, let me just zoom out. So if we go into the altimeter correction settings, sorry, went the other way around, altitude correction settings, as you can see, conduct autocorrect. It's going to use your phone and location of your phone to adjust the altimeter correctly, and it's going to do that automatically throughout the day as it connects to your phone. However, you can also manually change it by pulling out the crown and simply twisting the crown to edit the altitude that you're currently in, like so. When you've done it, you can close it, and that's pretty much it. So this is now your correct altitude. Another thing that you can do in the altimeter as the crown is open is if you press the mode button, it's going to ask you for the interval. You have a 2-minute interval, and you have a 5-second interval. If you do the 5-second interval, the watch is going to measure the altitude every second for the first 3 minutes, but then after that it's going to measure every 5 seconds for the next hour. If you go to the 2-minute interval, it's again going to measure every second for the first 3 minutes, but after that it's going to measure every 2 minutes for the next 12 hours. And also that's how long it's going to stay in the altimeter mode. So in this mode, it's going to stay for an hour and then it's going to jump back to the home screen. If you do it in this mode, it's going to stay in the altimeter mode for 12 hours and then jump back to the home screen. Another thing that you can change here is the difference. So this is actually the differential altitude based on your hike. So you can have 100-meter intervals or 1,000-meter intervals. What that means is that if you put it to 100 meters, you have this scale here, which is probably barely visible. As you can see, it goes from -10 to +10. So if you put it to 100 meters, this little needle is actually going to show you from -100 meters to +100 meters. So each one of these numbers is 10 meters. So it can show you as you're hiking, this is going to show how much you're ascending and how much you're descending, this little hand. So it's going to be, let's say if it says -5 and we have this selected, it's going to be -50 meters, meaning that we descended 50 meters. If you put it like this, each one of these numbers is 100. So it's from 1,000 to -1,000. So 1 or 5 is no longer 50 meters, it's 500 meters. So let's put it back to 100 meters. So let's close the crown. So let's say you're hiking and the watch, whenever you pass more than 15 meters in difference, it's going to store it in the memory as the total ascent and total descent, so that you can see how much you actually passed vertically, and it's going to be stored in that screen that we had it where everything was clear because we reset the phone. So you can later find that data and read that data, you know, your maximum altitude, minimum altitude, cumulative ascent, descent, and all that. Now, while in the altimeter mode, pressing this button and holding is gonna stop the reference. So currently the reference altitude is 0. So as you can see, this hand is pointing to under because it's at -124 meters. The hand cannot show it on this scale, so it's showing under. If we went to +105, it would show over because the reference is 100 to -100. Now, if you want to start at this location and you want to go to the ascent and you want to see from that location how much you're changing your altitude based on your reference altitude, you can reset the reference altitude by pressing and holding the adjust button. So press and hold, and there. And now currently the -125 is actually a reference altitude, it's 0. So that's why this hand is now showing 0. So now as we're starting ascent or descent, this hand is going to move up or down as we change our altitude. Another thing that you can do here is the mission log, and also save or manually record the current altitude. So let's say you climbed Mount Everest and you want to store that in the watch to have it as a reminder of when you were there. So let's say we went to -125. You simply press and hold this button. Not hold, you press and hold. There. And now it recorded this altitude in the memory of the watch. It can hold up to 30 records, and after that the oldest one gets erased or overwritten. It will store your altitude, your time and date when you were at that altitude. You can also turn on the mission log, where the watch is going to save your location as well. But to do that, you have to press and hold this for more than 5 seconds, because then the watch is also going to connect to your phone. So it's going to share or save in memory the altitude, the time, date, but it's also going to save your location as a waypoint, but it's going to send it to your phone. So to do that, you press and hold, still hold, and now release. Now it's doing a mission log, meaning that now, as you can see, it's trying to connect to the phone. Once it connects to the phone, it's going to send all that information into the app, and the app is going to save this as a waypoint. And I believe it's going to do this, like it can do this log function for, I believe, 24 hours, and then it turns itself off automatically. And that's pretty much it when it comes to the altimeter. Okay, next we're gonna cover the compass. Now the compass has two modes. One mode is when you don't pair it with your phone, then it works just like any other compass on an ABC watch. And the other one is more advanced when you pair it to your phone. So like this, as a regular compass, when in the home screen you simply press the comp button, and the seconds hand and this small hand are gonna start showing north, while the bearing and your direction where you're pointing the watch is gonna be displayed on this display here. So as you can see, as I'm tilting the watch, it's changing the bearing right here. Now in the compass you can also do the calibration and the magnetic declination. So to do the calibration, you pull out the crown and you can do the 8-figure calibration, which I'm going to put a picture on the screen because I can't show it here. You hold the watch in your hands and you're doing 8 figures motion to calibrate the compass. The second calibration is done when you press the mode button, and then you have to put your watch pointing one direction. You press a button, then you tilt it 180 degrees, press the button again. When it says OK, you put it upside down and again press the button. And that one is slightly more complicated, but everything is displayed here. The watch tells you what to do. And the third thing that you can do in the settings of the compass is the declination. So this is the difference in degrees between magnetic north and true north. So if you're using a topographic map and it says that it's based on true north, and it says what the declination is in degrees east or west based on the location where you are, because these degrees change depending on where on the planet you are, because our planet is round, believe it or not. Then you just input the info that says on the map here so that the watch shows you correctly the bearing. So you can twist the crown, you can go west, you can go east. You just match the data that says on the map and you're good to go. Pressing the mode goes back to the calibration. Close the crown. That's it when it comes to the settings of the compass. Now, like I said, initiate compass by pressing this. Now let's say you want to use a map and you want to go that way, so that's your bearing. You want to store this bearing in memory. You simply press this adjust button, and now as you can see, the small hand actually shows your bearing while the seconds hand still shows north. So if I tilt the watch, you will see that the small hand keeps pointing forwards while this one keeps pointing to the north. So this is how you're going to use the compass in a combination with a map. To clear your bearing or to reset it as a new bearing, you simply point where you want, you press it again, and now the small hand points there. And if I tilt it like this, you will see that the small hand goes there. To clear the bearing, you press and hold, and it's going to say that the bearing is 0, and now both hands point to the north. So that's it when it comes to the simple compass. Now, if you pair the watch to your phone, you can store the location where you are and have the watch guide you back. So if, let's say, we're at campsite and we're going to start a hike, before we start, I just want to press and hold this for 5 seconds. It's going to say memory. Keep holding. There. Now release. And now the watch is telling the phone to store this location where we are as our base camp. Once it does that, and it can only store one location, so you can only store the current location that you're here. Once it stores it on the phone, it's probably not going to work because we're inside, so the phone doesn't have the GPS signal. Once it stores it, it's going to memorize where you are. And now as we start our hike, we go somewhere and we want to go back. As you can see, it said failed, like I said, because we're inside. Outside it's gonna work. Okay, so let's say we went somewhere on a hike and we want to go back to our campsite. You press this and release when it says indicate. So you don't hold it for 5 seconds, but about 2 to 3 seconds. So press and hold and release. And now this hand is gonna keep pointing to the north, but this small hand is gonna show us where our stored location is, where our base camp is, and here you're gonna have the distance displayed in meters or feet, whatever you selected as the units. Once you get within 80 meters of the target location, it's gonna stop showing you how many meters you are away from your location, from the target location, and it's gonna say letter G. Now, when you start this navigation, when you activate the take me there function, it's gonna do it for 3 minutes. However, within those 3 minutes, if you press this button again or the light button again, let's say you're in the dark, it restarts the 3-minute cycle. If, however, you miss it and it exits it, you simply reactivate it by pressing this to activate the indicate function, like so. And again, now the 3-minute cycle has started. But the coolest thing about it is that you don't have to be at this location to make the watch indicate to it. Because if you go into the app, when you go into the app, you can go the app has an actual map. And then on that map, you can actually select any point you want. And once you select that point, I'm going to show you. So location point, edit point, and here you have like a map, and you can place the point anywhere you want. So let's say you're going to a campsite and you're at the parking lot or somewhere and you want to go there, you simply do this, you say save, and you send it to the phone, and then on the phone, when you activate that indicate function, the watch is gonna take you to that location, which is pretty cool. I mean, even this is cool where you have to be at that location to save it in the memory, but this is even cooler because you can like specify any point that you haven't been to, but you want to go to a certain, I don't know, peak or some kind of a cottage or something. You simply find it on a map, click it, and the watch is gonna take you there. So a very cool function, and one that's really worth like upgrading or pairing your watch to the phone. Anyways, that's it when it comes to the compass. Okay, and the last few things that we have to cover are the hand shift function and hand alignment function. So the hand shift function is when the hands are obscuring your little screen, you can manually move them away. Whenever you're setting something up, they move away automatically, but when you're using a function, they sometimes don't. So to move them away, you press the light button, and while holding the light button, you press the mode button, like so. The hands are going to move away from any screen or any of these subdials, and you're going to have the hand symbol or the hand inscription flashing here, telling you that now the hands are not showing the time, so you don't get confused, but are actually just shifted away. To turn off this hand shift function, it's going to turn itself off automatically, I believe, after a couple of minutes, but to turn it off manually, again, you just do the same. So press this and press this, and they go back to their position. And the last thing that we want to cover is the hand alignment, something that you're probably never going to have to correct, but in case the watch starts showing weird stuff that it's not supposed to, the hands can get misaligned. Now this, just like many other tough solar G-Shocks, has automatic hand alignment, and to initiate it, you pull out the crown and you press and hold this for more than 5 seconds. So press and hold, and now release. Once it beeps, you release. Now, unlike some other G-Shocks, this one will do the automatic hand adjustment, but it's gonna do only for these 3 main hands: the hour hand, the minute hand, and the seconds hand, because for them it does have a sensor of their position. You can also do all of this in the app naturally, and it's even simpler, but I want to show it on the watch because it's also pretty simple. Now, it has just aligned all of these automatically. You don't have to touch them. However, as you can see, you have sub 0 and sub 1. So you can actually adjust these small by pressing the mode button, sub 1, and now as I turn the crown, as you can see, that little hand is moving, the right one. Pressing it again, now we're setting the left one. As you can see, you can even move it like in a fast way. So once you've aligned them, but like I said, they're probably always gonna be aligned. Okay, let's stop it. I'm gonna do it again. Once you've aligned all the hands, you simply close the crown, and that's pretty much it. You've aligned all the hands correctly. They all have to point upwards. So unlike some other G-Shocks where it does everything automatically, or the other ones where you have to do everything manually, this one is like half and half. These hands do it automatically, but these two you have to correct. Anyway, so that's it when it comes to this tutorial. It's probably going to be incredibly long. I'll see if I'm going to do it in 2 parts or just leave it as one huge video, but that's it. It is a very complicated watch. I mean complicated, loaded with functions, but it is rather intuitive to use. Not as much as my Golfmaster, but still pretty close. I've seen much more complicated and harder to use G-Shocks than this one. Like I said, it's an awesome model, great addition to the Mudmaster line. If you pair it to your phone, it unlocks so many potential functions that, like, I really do like how they did it with the phone. I don't even have to use the app because I know how to set up everything on the watch, but the additional benefits of the app, including that GPS and that auto correction of the altitude, are simply worth pairing it to your phone. Anyways, that's it. So thank you for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.